Thank you. Okay, then. Good evening, guys. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Am I audible, everyone? Good evening, guys. Good evening, Shanmugan, Satyanarayan, Kalyani, Anij, Rexton. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Let me just confirm if I'm audible or not first. Yeah. So, yep. Hello, everyone. Hello, guys. Good evening. Now I can see myself actually. I was unable to see myself on YouTube. So now I can see myself. So, yep. Good evening, guys. Good evening, Suraj, Bhageshri, Omkar, Anusweta, Kritis, Arun. Good evening, everyone. And I hope I'm completely audible and completely visible, and also my screen is visible to you guys. Just hoping that. Good enough, right? All good? Okay, that's great then. So, how are you all, guys? And I welcome you all to day 3 of this React Bootcamp. And I hope so far it is so good and you're enjoying it. Please confirm that once in the chat, guys. I hope you're enjoying it so far, right? And also go ahead, call your friends and everyone, because today we're going to be discussing some pretty big topics. And just a second, I'm getting a call. Just a second from my teammate. Okay, guys, so sorry for that. I hope I'm visible. Is it the last day? Is it the it is the last day of the React Bootcamp. Today is the third day, and from tomorrow we'll be starting with the project. From whatever we have learned so far, tomorrow we will be starting with the project. And in that project, I'll be teaching you few more new things as well. So all these 3 days that you have learned, right, it will help you a lot in tomorrow's and day after tomorrow's session. So consider the other 2 sessions that we are taking tomorrow and day after tomorrow as extension of this session only. Consider it like that. Okay, please consider it like that. And all the topics that we have learned, we'll be using it there, plus few new topics. So we'll be basically mastering a little more things. That's all. Okay. So guys, are we ready to go, everyone? Are we ready to go? And also let me just get that notepad where we are mentioning what are the things we have learned so far, right? So these are all the things that we have learned so far. Okay, yesterday we got introduced to something called as state, which was very important topic. And we saw that state is nothing but data of a component, but it is special. That is, when it changes, the component re-renders and the output or the UI also changes. So we're going to be using it quite a lot. Okay, so be ready. We learned routing, we learned event handling. So we have learned a lot of things, and now we are good to go with other things as well. Okay, so let's go. And we also talked about hooks, right? So to create state variable, we use a hook called as useState. I also explained why they are called as hooks. They are nothing but some special functions which let you use the React features or which let you connect to the React feature. So today we'll move ahead and we'll talk about few more things. Okay, and today we have a very, very important topic to cover, which is, okay, first of all, let me, just go ahead and structure it a little bit. Yeah, something like this. And for state, let me mention it here. Okay, so today we're going to be discussing one very important topic of life cycle after some time, after maybe 15-20 minutes. But first of all, today we'll be talking about rendering lists. A very, very important topic, a very, very useful topic, and something which we'll be using a lot. So today we'll be first talking about rendering list items. But before that, let me just answer some question. Please answer my question. Angel Arya is asking, sir, how can I download my certificate of this bootcamp? You have to mark attendance. The attendance link is in the description. You have to mark your attendance there. And at the end of the session, you'll get a link of downloading a certificate there only. So don't worry about that. Just mark your attendance. And at the end of today's session, you will be able to download your certificate. Okay. Okay, cool. Let's go, guys. So you told today we're going to build a project. Tomorrow we'll be starting the project. So we are building GeoCinema. So tomorrow we will be starting the project. Okay. Yes, today I'll be showing you how to call API. Don't worry. Let's go. Let's start. Otherwise we'll be late. Okay, so guys, so far so good. We have talked about structure and working of React. We have talked about components, how to work with it, how to make it. We have talked about props, on how to pass data to component, right, through properties. We have talked about routing yesterday. We talked about event handling. We also saw some basics of state. Now today, the first topic that we are talking about is rendering list or rendering the list item. So what exactly I mean here? Okay, let's go. So see guys, first of all, remember, sometimes people get confused when they hear this term rendering. Rendering means nothing but loading. Loading or showing something is what we call as rendering, right? Like you might have played games. Sometimes, like games render. Render means it is loading a little slowly. So when you say that it is rendering, that means it's basically loading slowly. But the real meaning of rendering is loading or coming into picture or viewing it. Simple words. Okay. So anyway, guys, let's go and let's go back to that products. Remember this, guys? We used multiple product items. Also, let's run the project. So please don't fear the term rendering. Okay. So let me quickly run the project. npm run dev. Hello, Saurabh sir. Yes. Hi, Utpal. How are you, buddy? How are you? Sir, in interview, they will ask class components. Mostly nowadays, people have stopped asking about class components nowadays because most of the people are going with functional components. But even if they ask, it's quite easy. There are pretty much some small differences. That's all. Okay. So guys, we have our project and let's go back to products. And remember guys, yesterday, this pink element is a component, which is the products component. And inside that, we are loading 4 product item components we created, right? You can see here. So we created that. Now today, what my aim is first is to show you how to render list of items. Now see, what I'm trying to say here is, let's say if I have some data, right? For example, guys, always try to create your data as a state variable. Mostly try to create your data as a state variable because in most of the cases, you are going to change it. And when it changes, you actually want to re-render the UI. You want to see the output, right? So mostly try to create your data in state variables. Always do that. So let's get a state variable here. So let's say something like, what can you call it? Let's say, for now, let's just call it name or let's call it data. And then guys, set data equals to, we use a hook called as useState. Okay. And here I'm simply storing some string like all products. Okay. So guys, now I have a variable called as data and the value of that variable is all products. Okay. And I can use this set data function to change that. But right now that's not my aim. My aim is how do we display some data on the page? We simply go put curly braces and write the variable name. That is also rendering. Now, in this case, we have only rendered one single string on the screen. And you can see here, it is visible. You can see all products, right? It is visible. So this is also rendering, but we have only rendered a simple string item. Now, what today we are focusing on is, what if my data is not only a string? What if my data is an array? Right? Because in most of the cases, when you call APIs or when you actually work with real-time applications, you are going to be receiving array of data. So displaying a string or a number is very easy. Just go ahead and just display it like that. What if in the future I get a data like this, an array, right? And in this array, there can be some objects like, let's say this is, let's call this as, okay, data for now. And then let's just go ahead and, just put some name. Okay, let's just give it a good name. Let's call it Avengers. And for some time, guys, let me just comment this product item. Let me just comment this for some time. Okay, because I'm working with some other thing, right? So let me just comment this. So Avengers is my name of the array, and here it will be set Avengers. So let's say name or getting some dummy data. Okay, just some dummy data. Age 1500. One object. Then name Iron Man, age, I don't know, maybe 45, something like that. And one more last, the big 3, name Captain America, and then also age 105, something like that. Okay. So guys, now what I'm trying to say here is, let me just make it a little better to look at. You can see now in your state, you have actually, okay, I think it was looking better the other way. So this was much more better, right? Okay. So now in your state, in the Avengers variable, you actually have an array of objects. Now it can also be array of strings, it can be array of anything. Okay. But in this case, let's say it is an array of objects. Correct. So now guys, first of all, if you, now here I'm trusting you that you know a little bit of JavaScript. So have you guys ever worked with something called as a map function in JavaScript? Have you guys ever worked with that? If you have not, don't worry, I'll show you how that works. So let me just search for, just for all the new people, if you're new to JS as well, so online JS compiler, let me just search for that. Are you guys familiar with the map function? Please tell me that, guys. If not, I'll just quickly go ahead and just show you some. I hope you can see my screen properly. Let me just show you. So see guys, simple thing is, let me create an array quickly. So let data. Here it is not React, so we cannot use useState. I'm simply creating a very dummy array. So array, and let's source some strings like hello, or maybe sun, moon, some planetary level objects, space objects, whatever you call them, Jupiter. Okay. So now guys, I have an array which only holds 3 strings, right? So in JavaScript, you have a function called as map. Remember guys, you have a function called as map, or let me just talk about 2 functions. It will just take 2 minutes for all the new people, so please focus. So in JavaScript, there is a function called as for each. Okay. So what happens here is, I'm applying a for each function on this data, which is an array. That means for each is an array function, and it only works with arrays mostly. Okay. Inside this for each, there is a function available. Inside this for each, there is a function available. Now this function that I've mentioned here, if this looks tough, remember guys, it's just an arrow function. You can also write it like this, function. This is also fine. Or you can just write it like this. So I personally write it in an arrow way because that's much more easier to look at, much more cleaner, right? So see guys, don't worry, even if you don't know JS, I'm explaining you this. I'll just take 2 minutes and explain you this. So remember guys, I'm saying data, which is my array, dot for each. That means for each of the elements of this array, call this function. For each of the elements of this array, call this function. So how many elements do we have here? 3 elements. That means this internal function will be called 3 times. And every time in this parameter, 3 things will be available. The element, the index of that element, and the whole array. So in this case, if I go ahead and just print everything, console.log, the element. Now guys, see, these are just variables. You can name them whatever you want, but the sequence is important. So element, index, and array. So what I'm trying to say here is, see, okay. So data.for each of the element in this array, call this function. And every time, so for the first time, sun will be available in element. What is the index of sun? 0. So index will be 0 and array will be whole array. Second time, element will be moon, index will be 1, array will be again whole array. For third time, element will be Jupiter, index will be 2, array will be whole array. So if I run this, see, sun 0, the whole array, moon 1, the whole array, Jupiter 2, the whole array. So for each is a function which you can use to loop through the array, simple, and print or do whatever you want. Now it's up to me what I want to use. Like if I'm only interested in the element, I don't need to worry about index and array. I can just only work with the element. So see, sun, moon, Jupiter. Is that clear, guys? Is that clear? This is for each. Now for each is only used for looping. But sometimes, what you want is, you want to manipulate the data of the array and get a new array. For example, what I want is, someone tells me, okay, this is the array. Based on this array, create a new array in which you add S at the last of every element. What if I want to do something like that? So for each won't work because I want a new array. I want a new array with same data. So my expectation is something like this. Let new data equals, my expectation is this. I need a new array with output like this. Suns, moons, and Jupiters. This is my expectation. I want a new array in which data should be like this. So on each element, S should be added. So for that, you cannot use for each because for each doesn't return anything. But what you can use here is a function called as map, which does exactly same thing what for each does. But map, inside the map function, you can actually return. So I can say return element. Element means initially for the first time element will be sun, next time moon, next time Jupiter. So element, I'm saying plus S. So now here, what I can do is whatever the map function returns, I can store it in this array. Let new data. So data.map, that means loop through the whole list, whole array. This function will be called for each and every element. So first for the sun, so return sun plus S, which will be suns, then moon plus S, then Jupiter plus S, and at the end a new array will be created and it will be stored in this new data. So map function, whatever you return from the map function, at the end a big array is created and stored separately. So now if I print new data, directly the array, you can also apply for each, but I'm directly printing it just to show you. So new data, a new list is created, see, with suns, moons, Jupiter, S at the end. So you can use the map function to manipulate an array, change some elements of the array and get a new array. Is that clear, guys? For each is only for looping and printing. But if you want to change something and get a new array out of it, you need to use map. Is that cleared, everyone? Are we cleared? Is that cleared, guys? Please focus, everyone. Are we cleared? This is very important. If you understand map, then only you will understand what's happening in React. That's why it's very important to understand. Are we cleared, guys? So this new data is nothing but a new array. So map function has given us a new array of whatever we return from inside. See, if needed, I can only return this, guys. We can also return 1. So what is the meaning of this? For every element, return 1. That means all the 3 times it will return 1. So I will have an array of 1, 1, 1. That means I didn't utilize the element. That means it's up to me what I do inside. It's up to me what I return from inside. Is that cleared? It doesn't matter what is the element. I can return whatever I want. The main logic here is map can loop through list of elements. The element is available, but what I want to return, it's up to me. I can return 1, I can return 1 into 2, I can return whatever I want. Okay. And guys, the index is also available here if you want. I didn't paste it, I didn't create it, but it's there. So I can just do this as well if I just want. I can return the index. So for the first element, index will be 0. So 0 will return, then 1, then 2. So I should have something like this. See? So map gives you a new array. Remember, map always gives you a new list. So this is the first level of understanding. We have 3 levels here. First level is cleared. We know how map works. Now let's get back to React. Okay, I hope I was able to help. Now here we have an array, but again, let's not directly dive into that. Let me show you something. So see, what you can do is here also in React, it's possible that you can pass a list of elements. See, this is a list, this is an array. Okay, again, to create an array, don't forget, if you're using anything related to JavaScript, put it inside curly braces. So I'm passing a list here. Okay, list, array of elements. Now that array can be of any element. So here, my first element is going to be, let's say, an H1. Hello. Second element is going to be an H1 again. Hi. Please remember this, guys. That means I can also pass an array of elements. Now we know you might ask me, sir, what are you doing? I can just pass 3 H1s. Wait, guys, there is a very important aspect of this. Okay, I know that we can directly pass 3 H1s. Why do I even need this? But I'm just trying to explain you that an array of elements can be passed and that is also displayed in the output. So if you see your React output, see, hello, hi, and bye are displayed. Hello, hi, and bye are displayed. They are going horizontal because we have some CSS. Otherwise, they will go vertical. Don't worry. We have some CSS, right, for flexboxing. That's why they're going one by one horizontally. But that doesn't matter. What I'm trying to say is you can pass a list of elements. And what does map return? Guys, what does map return? A list of elements. Remember this. Do this connection. So we can pass a list of element. So now here comes the main logic. So can I just go and do something like this? I have an array, correct? I have an array named Avengers. Can I just go and do Avengers dot map, right? And we know here we pass a function. In the map, we pass a function. And we have three parameters here: the element, the index, and the array. I don't need the index right now. I don't need the array right now. What I need is element. Right? And guys, what is there in this array? How many elements are there in this array, guys? How many elements are there? 3 elements. See, in this array, we had 3 strings. But in this array, we have 3 objects, and that's fine. That means if I pass element here, but again, now element doesn't sound like a good name. But for now, let's just call it element. Okay, element. So element. Now, element, that means for the first time in the element, we have this object. For the second time in the element, we have this object. For the third time in the element, we have this object. So it will run 3 times, and every time in the element, we'll have a new object. Cool? And now, see, just like in map, you perform a return, right? Here also, you can say return. And since you're returning an HTML element, just pass round brackets. And here I can simply say h1. And now, again, I want to write some JavaScript. So see, guys, what is element? Element is a object. So I can access any property of the object. So let me just print ele dot name. That's it. So what's happening? That means at the end, this map will return a list of h1s. How many h1s? There are 3 elements. So 3 h1s. H1s will have name. So at the end, this map is simply going to return a list. That is why in the start I showed you that a list can be printed. So this will return a list, and that list will be printed, and you'll have something like this. See, Thor, Iron Man, Captain America. Simple enough, right, everyone? That's how you can render multiple items by using a loop. Now, this array can be as big as you want. It can have 10 elements, 20 elements, and you can also return multiple things, right? Not only h1. I can just go and, print. And again, say, same thing. If I just go ahead, see, again, same. Whenever you're returning JSX, there should be one parent element. So again, I don't want, or in here we need, actually in here we should pass a div. That will be better. So /div. And I also want to pass the age. So in h1, okay, here I'll pass the age. So element.age. Right, everyone? So I'm saying map through the Avengers array, and for every element, return a div, right? In which h1 and p should be there. h1's content is element's name. Element is nothing but the object. So name of the object, which is Thor, the next time Iron Man, the next time Captain America, and same with the age. So at the end, what is happening is we are getting 3 divs. In the list, we're having 3 divs. And in all div, we have a name, age, name, age, name, age. And that's how we get something like this. Yes, yes. This is just a variable, guys. Now, actually, you should give a beautiful name to it, not like this, ELE. I just gave it for now, but you should give a good name like Avenger or A or E, some better name according to your requirements. It should have a good name. Is that clear, guys? So that's how you basically render list items. Is it kind of clear to everyone? Please tell me. Is it kind of clear to everyone? Please confirm that. Please confirm that. So now you have mapped to the example, how we understood map, then how we understood that you can display a list, and how we understood that we are using map here, which is returning a list, and then that list is getting displayed. For each can't return, right, Rexton? For each cannot return. What I showed you initially, remember what I showed you initially, that you can pass a list of item here. Now list of item, if I use for each cannot return. So I will never have a list of item. Let me show you here. See, if I use for each in this case, and I'm returning the index, so I want to see what I'm getting in new data. See, I get undefined. That means for each doesn't return anything, but I want to display a list there, right? So for each doesn't return anything. So whatever for each does, it is always inside the for each. It is not returning a new list to me, which I can use. But map returns a new list, right? A new list. And I showed you initially that here we can pass a list of items, right? But I have an array, and based on that array, I want to generate a list. So to generate a list, we are using the map function, because map is what can return a list, or each cannot return a list. So internally, even though I have written map here, internally what's happening, guys? Internally, a list is getting generated with 3 elements: div, h1 and p. So internally this is happening, right? Something like this is happening. Internally, something like this is happening. Just wanted to show you, that's all. No big deal, right? And one more. So this map is internally creating something like this for you. See for yourself now. I write this map, which internally creates a list like this with 3 elements. That's what the map is doing. But we don't have to write this, because map by default does it for us. Is that clear, guys? And you can return whatever you want. I hope I'm cleared now. I hope you guys have understood now perfectly, right? And this is just a variable. You can name it whatever you want. And if you feel that I need index somewhere, you can also use the index. If you feel that you need the array somewhere, you can also use the array. But in most of the cases, you will never need it. Most of the times, you'll be finishing up with this element and index. Or most of the cases, element will be sufficient for you. So guys, are we all cleared with the rendering the list items? Are we all cleared with rendering the list items? So one more time I'll repeat. Don't worry, Samir. So we have a list, that means an array of objects. To display that array of objects properly, we have simply done a map, right, which returns a list of objects. That's it. Can we use, yeah, you can use filter. Definitely. Why not? You can use filter. Yes, completely fine. Whatever returns a list, whatever can return, you can use it. But in this case, why we are using map? Because we want to display all the elements. If you use filter, then you basically apply a condition, right? And based on the condition, only some elements are displayed. Correct. So whatever functions that return a list or an element, you can use it. That's completely fine. Is that clear, Devendu? From whatever you can return something from, you can use it. It can be a function as well. It can be a normal function as well. For example, just to show you guys, let me show you this. Let's say your function dummy, okay? And this function actually returns an HTML element. See, it's the same thing, guys. Like just I don't want you guys to become a developer like always thinking what's happening, like, just writing code for the sake of it. I want you guys to know and understand what's happening inside. See, for example, here I write in H2. Here I write in H2. Now you can write this H2 directly. See, you can write this H2 directly. Let me just remove this for some time. Now see, what I'm trying to show you is I can write this H2 directly, or if needed, I can go in this function and say return H2 same, hello, something like that. And instead of H2 now, I want to call a function. But now guys, see, I'm in the JSX area. So to write anything related to JavaScript, curly braces, and then the function name. What is the function called? Dummy. Let's call that function here, dummy. See, same thing, right? So you called dummy, which is returning an h2. So in the place of dummy, you're getting an h2. Similar. So if a function is returning an HTML element, you can put that function here. It can be filter, it can be map, it can be find, or it can be your own function. Correct? Got the point? So never get confused. You should always know what's happening inside. Cool, guys. So right now we don't need it, so definitely I'll remove it. Or see, also you can do this. See, let me show you a better way. Now, think of it like this. Create Avengers list. Think of it like this. What if you feel like this code is getting bigger and bigger and bigger? This code is getting too complicated to read. So you can write this separately. You know, you can write this separately here. Why not? So I say create Avengers list and return this whole thing. Return whatever this returns. This. Return whatever this returns. So now guys, tell me, what is this create Avengers list returning right now? It is returning whatever the map is returning. That means a list of elements. So now, instead of writing this big code in here, I can just call the function create Avengers list. It doesn't make any big difference, but at least your code looks good, right? See, now your code, this looks fine. Oh, simple element. But you know that behind the scenes, this is happening. So either you write this whole thing directly here, or you put it in a function, return it from that function, and just call the function here. So that this looks good. So getting the point, what I'm trying to explain you here, get into the insides of what's happening so that you always understand. Because sometimes people know the basic way of everything. But when we change it, or when we, try to maintain it, or for usability purposes, in actual companies, in actual organizations, people do this. For usability, they separate the concerns, they write functions separately. So junior developers, sometimes they get confused. Oh, I only know this way. But it is easy. It's not tough. It's just dividing the code here and there. That's all. Okay. How can we use the Avengers value with? Yes, I'll be showing you. That's my aim. That's my aim. Yeah, you can see this, right? Same thing. Or you can also store it in a variable. So if this looks complicated, first store whatever this is returning in a variable, and then return that variable. One more way of simplifying your code. Right? Everyone, are we cleared with this, everyone? Come on, quickly tell me, are we cleared? Because we have a lot of things to do today. Are we cleared? And are you guys understanding and enjoying things or not? Tell me that as well. All good? Amazing then. Sorry for that. Okay, cool. Should I keep it like this, or should I just go ahead and, put this map here? Or we can keep it like this, right? It makes it easy. Makes it look easy. So let's keep it like this. Or better option, let me just do this. Let Avengers list equals, okay, whatever this is returning. And then at the end, one of the same thing, guys, just keeping it sorted. So what I did now, I just, whatever list I'm returning, I stored it in a variable and then returned that variable. It is still the exact same thing. No big deal. It's still the exact same thing. Okay, cool, no biggie. Now, let me remove this function because that is what I don't need right now. Remove all that stuff. Let's keep this function, or you can remove this function completely fine. Or actually, let's remove this function. Just wanted to show you. Because now what I really want to do is, I want to work with this. What I really want to do is I want to work with this. Okay. So now, let's go ahead, and don't worry, I'll be repeating this again. I got an exam tomorrow in here. All the best for your exam, buddy. But you can watch it definitely. But I would suggest you study for your exam. That's important, right? Okay. So guys, now that was some dummy Avengers data. Now let's go and let's actually get some real product data, which we can utilize in our products. Cool, everyone? So let's go. Let state variable, let's call it as products, and then set products. If in future we plan to change it, set products equals use state. Don't worry, I'm going to do the same thing again, so we won't get confused. Use state, and initially I want to pass an array, so let's pass a list of products. Let's pass a list of products. Now, if you are not planning to write this data by your own, so you can generate it via ChatGPT or something like that. Guys, is the video getting stuck? I don't think, because I'm also watching it on YouTube and it's working fine. But Ayan, for you it is getting stuck, right? So guys, can you please confirm if is it only stucking for Ayan? Okay, only yours, buddy. Cool. Let's go. Let's go. So let's prepare some data. So now we know that product has a name, product has a price. So let's pass a name. Similarly, we can pass iPhone 14. That's completely fine. iPhone 15, 14, whatever you want. Okay. And then price, anything, let's say it's a number. So obviously no need of double quotes, 89,000. And now one more property I'll be passing you just to make it look better. Image URL, something like that. And let's take an image, sorry, not equal to image URL from online. Let's just take it. So let me just go online and search for iPhone 15, something like that. Let's go to images and let's download a simple, good looking image like this. So copy image address. I'm directly using the online link, not downloading the image. You can also download it, but for now it's fine. It's quite big, but that's okay. Okay. Now the next product, or let me make it look good. Name, price, image URL. Okay, looks fine now. Cool. Why are there comments here? All good. Yeah. So one product is done. Now similarly, second product, second object. Now the object size was quite big. That's why I just separated it in different lines. Let's have Samsung S23, something like that. And let's say price will be, I don't know, 97,000, something like that. And image URL, I'll just take one more product, don't worry. So Samsung S23, maybe this looks fine. Yep, so let's take this one. So copy image address again, go in the code, paste it here. One more image is done, and last product I'll take for now. Name. Suggest me some good phone, guys. I don't know what can we do here. Maybe I'm always confused in this. Let's say OnePlus. OnePlus. I don't know. 8. I forgot the names of OnePlus. Price 56,000, something like that. Image URL. Okay, let's take OnePlus 8. OnePlus 8. Okay, a good image. Is this fine? Looks okay. This is a bit quite small. Yeah, this looks fine. So copy image address and paste. So now, guys, we have 3 data again. Cool, everyone. 3 objects. Same, just like Avengers, we have 3 objects, but in here we just have 3 properties: name, price, and image URL. And the array name is products. Okay, products. Now let's go. Now we know, everyone, now we know that what we can do is we can perform a map, right? We can do products dot map, and in here at one time a single item will be there. And now, guys, instead of calling it ELE, I'm calling it product. Makes sense, right? Products is the array, and one single item can be called as product. And I know now here I can simply return whatever I want. Here I can simply return a div. I can simply return a div, and inside that I can put name. So let's say an H1. Correct, everyone? H1 and product dot name. See, let's see if it is coming up. You can see that, right, everyone? Is this understood, guys? Are we understanding this much? It's similar to what we did just a little while back, right? Please confirm that. Please quickly confirm, then we move ahead. Please quickly confirm, everyone. This is similar to what we did a while ago, right? Guys, please come on, tell me. And why I keep shifting to top chat instead of live chat? Okay. Now, what I'm thinking is, instead, yesterday we created a product item property, right, everyone? Yes, sorry, not a property. Yesterday we created a product item component which already has a structure like dev, h1, h3, and it expects a name and a price. So can't I just use this product item component instead of writing my own structure? So I know the only reason I showed you this is you can write your structure, and we also saw it in the Avengers example. I can write whatever I want. So I can write my own structure, or I can also use a pre-built component which I have built. So now, instead of writing our own structure, we'll go here and use this pre-built component product item. And now here in the name, at the place of the name, I can pass product.name, and at price, I can pass product.price. So now this loop will run 3 times. That means the product item will be created 3 times. And I'm passing name and price as prop to that product item. And the name and price are coming from my object. So now if I go here, see that everyone? The cards are here. All cool. But now, very important thing is, we are not passing the image URL, and we are also not utilizing the image URL. So let's go and let's also pass the image URL. So let's create an image URL property and pass the product image URL as a value to that. So product.image URL. So now see, my product item has also one more property called as image URL, and the value which I'm passing is objects image URL. Right. So let's go in the product item, and for displaying the image URL, let's use the image tag. Image img src, and in the src I'll be using props dot image URL. Right? In this props, we'll be getting what? The image URL property, right? So that is what we are doing here. Now save it and see that, guys. I know it looks very bad because the images are quite big. So let's make the image a little small. For that, let's give this image a class. Let's call it product-img. Okay, and let's apply some CSS to it. So let's go to app.css. Let's give it a width of around maybe, or let's give it a height, not width. For now, height. So height of 200 pixels, something like that. And let's see. Here we go, guys. See that, everyone? The card looks quite good, right? Everyone. And also you can mention a quite proper, so instead of putting width as fit content, let's put width as around 30%. I think that's quite big, but let's see. Yeah, 30% quite big. Let me just put as 15% of width of that grade element. Yeah, looks fine. And you can also center it if you want, up to you. I'm just not writing a lot of CSS. We can make it look even better than Flipkart. If we take 1 hour to design it, we can make it look a lot better. But I think for now that's fine, right? Because we're going to be building the project tomorrow. So I'll be writing a lot of CSS. So guys, understood everyone how to render? Please confirm that. Now you can render whatever you want, and the design of what you're rendering is completely up to you. Is that clear, guys? Everyone? I can create it card shaped, I can make it circle, I can make it list, I can make it whatever I want. That is simply CSS. But guys, that's how you simply render list item based on array data. Because in most of the cases, you'll be getting array data. Are we all clear then with the first topic for today? Are you going to use Tailwind in tomorrow's project? The problem is I don't know how many of people actually know Tailwind. So they might get confused. So I'm going to be trying, I'll see. Mostly I'll be using CSS. Mostly. Plain CSS. Conditional rendering is quite easy. Don't worry. At the end today, I'll be teaching you conditional rendering as well. Don't worry. At the end today, I'll be teaching conditional rendering as well. So don't worry at all. But guys, are we cleared with this concept, everyone? Can you please confirm that? Okay, design is up to you. CSS is completely up to you. You can do whatever you want. Okay, and also let me just, instead of, I think 12 is fine. Yeah, this looks fine. And you can also pass some flexing and centering and make it in center, but that's fine, guys. For now, it doesn't matter. Right now, it's completely fine. Okay. Now then, today's first topic is done, which was, let me mark it done, rendering list. Now then, so guys, yeah, see, even in just 3 days time, we have covered a lot of things and you can actually start building on it. Now then, let's talk about one of the most important topics. If we are all clear and there are no confusions, let's talk about one of the most important topic in React where people actually get confused a lot. And don't worry, guys, if for the next 20 minutes, you hear me very carefully and you see what I'm doing very carefully, you will never get confused in this topic because this is one of the most confusing topics. Even for me, when I started, it was a little confusing for me, but I'll make sure that you never get confused in this. So the next topic is life cycle, or to be more precise, life cycle of React components. Why am I even mentioning React? We are actually doing React. So let's remove React from here. Life cycle of components. So what is the meaning of this? Okay, why I'm saving this file? I don't know. Let's go. Life cycle of component. So now, first of all, again, very simple explanation before we dive into it practically. Remember, guys, every component that you create in React, listen to me very carefully. Every component that you create in React, no matter if it is a big component which is acting like a page or it is a small component somewhere, every component in React has a life cycle. Now, what is the meaning of life cycle? It is what it truly means in the whole world. What is a life cycle, guys? In reality, a person is born, the life cycle starts for that person. That person does a lot of things, the life cycle keeps changing. And when he dies, the life cycle ends. So person is born, life cycle started. Whatever he does, that is part of the life cycle. And once that person dies, life cycle ends. This is what happens for each and everything in this world, even for living and non-living things. So even your components have a life cycle. As soon as a component is loaded on the screen, that's when the life cycle of that component starts. Okay, getting the point, everyone? As soon as a component gets loaded on the screen or gets loaded in the app component, we know that when a component loads on the app component, the life cycle starts. So as soon as a component is loaded, the life cycle starts. And as soon as it is unloaded from the component tree or from the screen, the life cycle ends. Listen to me very carefully. So as what I mentioned, as soon as the component loads, the life cycle starts. Okay. And as soon as the component is unloaded, the life cycle ends. Now, the question here is, okay, that's fine. Component loads, lifecycle start, component is removed, lifecycle ends. So what do I have to do with it? Like, why am I even learning? I know, fine, okay. I create components, I load them on screen, I remove them from screen. Why am I learning this? What is the need? So now, listen to me very carefully. Lifecycle, you are not doing anything about it, guys. Remember, you are not dealing with the lifecycle. Lifecycle in React is already working behind the scenes. A component loads, it starts. A component is removed, it ends. It's already working. So why we are learning? Because sometimes you want to perform some task based on the component's life cycle. For example, when the component loads, I want to do this. When the component is removed, I want to do this. When the component re-renders, I want to do this. So sometimes you want to perform a task based on components load or components removal or components re-rendering or refresh, because these are all life cycle events, right? So sometimes based on this life cycle events, I want to perform some task. So how can I do that? So life cycle is happening. Life cycle events is happening. Loading, going away, getting deleted, unmounting, whatever you call it. So when the life cycle start, that is also what you call as mounting of component. And when the life cycle ends, that is also called as unmounting of component. And sometimes, remember guys, yesterday I told you, if you have a state data inside the component and that state changes, the component re-renders. So that's also part of the life cycle. Component re-render or refresh. That's also part of the life cycle. Okay. Component loads, component changes, component is removed. Okay. So all of these things are happening, but sometimes we want to do something whenever these things happen. Okay. And for that, to perform that, to do that, or to do something based on the life cycle events of a component, you have a very special hook called as useEffect. This is the hook. This is the hook which lets you perform, yes, mounting and rendering same. Yeah. So mounting or loading or rendering, same thing. Re-render, reload, remount, kind of same. Is that clear? So yeah, you can say that, Amit. So guys, as I was mentioning, so if you want to perform some task based on these different life cycle events, so to access the life cycle events or to perform something based on the life cycle events, you have one more hook which is called as useEffect. This hook gives you ability to perform some code based on different life cycle events. So React lifecycle is a feature of React, and this function is getting you the privilege of using those functions, right? That's why again it's a hook. As I mentioned, right? Hook is something which lets you use some React feature or connect to some React feature. So use state helps you to connect to state feature of React. So you can create state variables, you can create state data. useEffect lets you work with the lifecycle feature of React, right? Okay, there's a spelling mistake. That's why it's also called as a hook, but it is just a function, guys. Are we clear with the theory, everyone? Are we clear with the theory? So a few days ago, an interviewer asked me a question: why React is better than other frameworks? Angular JS, how then? In this, according to me, your personal experience is very important. Like if someone asks me why React is better, so first of all, my answer will be saying React is better is one's personal choice. I never know. Maybe my friend knows Angular better, so he will always say Angular is better, right? But to prove that React is better, you have to come up with your own points, because React's learning curve is a little easier than Angular, because Angular has a big structure, because it's a big framework. React seems a little more like JavaScript. So that's my personal experience. I have learned both. I have learned Angular. I have learned, I think, almost 4 JS frameworks I have worked with. But I have found React a lot easier, because React looks a lot like JavaScript. It has very less setup to start with, right? Boilerplate is very small, not like Angular, a big whole project directory. Routing is much more simpler in React. That's one thing, right? Here you can utilize the basic functions of JavaScript like fetch. You don't have to go with observables or extra things provided by Angular. So that's where it becomes. So you have to first experience why it is easy. If you know it is easy, then you can answer it. If you know it is better, then only you can answer it. If you don't know if it is better or not, then sometimes it becomes tough. So you should know the features. It should be your personal experience. Yes, it's like forgiveness and simple to use. Like, yes, exactly. It seems like you're still working with JavaScript and not with React. When you work with React, it feels like you're working with JavaScript. And JSX is a lot easier here. JSX, event handling, is a lot easier. Okay, guys, let's go then. So first of all, as I mentioned, guys, okay, now to teach you this, let me create one more component, because I don't want to, mix up all the components. So guys, I'm not creating a small component for this. I'm creating a separate page for this. But guys, I really hope you remember, right? Yesterday I told you, whether it is a page, whether it is a small component, a component is a component. It's up to us that some components we display it like a big page, and some components we use it like small components, right? Small UI pieces. So here I'm going to create a new page, typically new component. So new file, and let's call it as we have home, we have products. Let's call it as what can we call it? Profile. Let's call it as profile. I'm simply creating this just to show you the life cycle, because all the other components I have a lot of code, right? So I don't want to mix things up. So let's call it profile.jsx. Okay, cool everyone. Sir, please explain hooks. Hooks are nothing but functions which lets you utilize React features. They let you connect to React features. So simply they are functions which let you connect to React features. So they are letting you connect to React feature. That's why they are called as hooks. But they are simply functions which let you use React features or any other features normally. This is how they were created. But nowadays, people also create their own hook. But it is for the same purpose. You can use that hook to connect or to utilize a particular feature. Simple. Okay, guys, so I'm creating a new component called profile. So export. I hope I have answered. Nutan, please don't spam the chat. Please, kind request. Export default function and then profile. And remember, guys, whatever I'm doing here, it's possible in any component. Okay, I'm just showing it here because all the other components are now very full. And let's return some data for now, some HTML for now, some JSX to be very clear. A blank element, and then inside that a simple h1, or we can, okay, fine, we can have a div here as well. Let's call it as profile, and also let's apply some CSS so that we can see it. So let's go to the CSS here at the end. Dot profile, width of 100%, height of 500 pixel, and background color of, let's say, I don't know if there is a color called as light red. Is it there? Light red? No. Let's give it light green. That's fine. Let's give it light green. Okay, profile. And now, guys, to make it act as a page, we have to add it where? We have to add it in the routing, right? So we have to go to the app component, and I'll say I'm creating a new route. See, we know that either I can use it as a component, I can include it anywhere, or I can use it as a page by including it in the routing. Right, guys? Everyone, are we clear with this? I can include that profile component anywhere in any other component directly, or I can put it in a route and use it like a page. Yes or no, guys? Can you please confirm that? We have learned that, right? We have understood it yesterday properly. Profile. Okay. And also, let's add a new link in the navigation, which will take you to the profile page. So profile. And let's mention profile. Are you guys messaging few things because I can't see your answer? Yeah, I can see your chats. Okay, so now we have one more link you can see, profile. If I click on that, I get to this green element. So now I have 3 pages: home, products, and profile. Right, everyone? Correct? Now then, let's do a few things in it. So first of all, let me show you how Lifecycle works. Okay, let me show you how Lifecycle works. So as I said, see, initially, let's say we are at home. Okay. Now this is happening for every component, but let's understand it from the profile component. As soon as I'm clicking on the profile, that component is loading in the screen. Remember, guys, a component can load in the screen in any way, by routing, by including it directly, or by conditional rendering. See, it doesn't matter how a component comes on the screen. The way can be anything. The way can be by routing. The way can be by direct calling. The way can be by a button click. So by any way, if a component loads on screen, the life cycle of that component starts. So as soon as I click on the profile link, the profile component appears. And now the life cycle of this component has started. Okay, it has started. So how do I, so it has started, as I mentioned, lifecycle always works. So it has started, but how do I do something? If it has started, how do I do something? Okay. So now, as I mentioned, if you want to perform some task based on the life cycle of a component, based on the life cycle stage of a component, you have to go with the hook called as useEffect. So in that component will go profile component, and here at the top you can use a hook called as useEffect. And in between this, there are mainly two parameters. First, you'll be passing a function. So first one inside useEffect is a function. And now guys, remember, the function that you have passed inside useEffect, or simply say useEffect. Now this useEffect is called when the component is mounted for the first time and also for every re-render. So by default, useEffect is called for every render and re-render. So if I have to create a definition here, useEffect is by default called for every render and re-render. To prove that, let me just pass a console log here. Console.log profile component mounted. Okay, let's see. Let's refresh, and again let's go back to some other component, remove everything. Now see, if I go to profile, see, profile component mounted. But now one more question, why it is coming twice? Why it is coming twice? It is coming twice because of React's feature of strict mode. Because right now React is running in strict mode. So initially React first runs and checks for everything. So that's when it is printed, and then React put a final output. So in strict mode, React checks your application twice. That's why it is printing twice. So for some time, let's go and let's stop the strict mode. So we can go to main.jsx and comment this strict mode. I don't want to run in strict mode, just run it once. In strict mode, first it runs like a dry run to check if everything is good, and then it runs properly. So it runs twice, once for checking and once for actual running. I don't want that, just run it directly. So strict mode is off now. And now if I refresh, or if I go to home first, or if I go to products, anywhere, and now from there, if I go to profile, see, profile component mounted. Is that cleared, everyone? So the first call is happening. But I also want to check if it is also getting called on re-render. And guys, now you tell me, how do you re-render a component? How is it possible? How do we achieve that? How do we make sure that a component re-renders? Let's see if you can answer. From tomorrow till today, you have understood a lot. So let me see if you can answer, guys. How do we re-render a component? When does a component re-render? When does a component re-render? Come on, tell me quickly. Let's see. No, use state is, you're close, but use state is used to create state variable. Yes, the answer is whenever the state variable changes. Amazing. See, you guys are smart now. Amazing. So whenever the state variable changes, okay, Nagesh, never answer it like when we change something. No, something can be a normal variable as well, right? Yesterday I showed you, when a normal variable changes, there's no re-render. So only when a state variable changes, then re-render happens, right? So for not for normal variable. So don't say when we change anything, when we change a state variable. And to change a state variable, first we need a state variable. So let's go and let's actually create a state variable. So for now, we can call it like data. It's completely fine. Just a dummy variable. So let data, set data equals use state, right? And let's pass initial data as, what can we call it? Let's just Saurabh, something like that. Okay, my name, I'll just pass my name here. And let's display it somewhere. So in here, in H1, I'll display my name, which is data for now. Okay. And to change the state variable, obviously we need to create a button where we can click and do all that stuff, right? So let's create a button here. Button. And then on click. Now see guys, yesterday I showed you that you can create a function like change data or whatever you call it, like change name, whatever you want to call it. And then here you can call set data. Remember guys, yesterday I told you, right? Whenever you're planning to change the state variable's value, you should always use the function. So set data and then the new value. So let's say I'm passing Thor, something like that. And now we need to call this function. And also don't put brackets, otherwise it will be automatically called. So now when I click on the button, the change name function is called. When the change name function is called, the state value changes, and whenever the state value will change, the component will re-render. And what I'm expecting is when the component re-renders, the use effect will be called again. That's what my expectation is. Let's see if it is working. Okay, let me also put something on the button. Change name. Change name. Okay, here we go guys. So you can see initially profile component mounted is coming. First time use effect is getting called. Now I'll click on this button and my state variable will change, component will re-render, and use effect will be called again. See, it is called again. Is that cleared guys? Everyone, are we cleared? And no matter how many state variables you have, if you have 10 variables, it will change for all 10. Like for example, if I have let's call it not data, let's call it name. Name, set name, set name. Let me also create one more variable called as city. City, just want to show you something. Set city. Now guys, tell me how many state variables does this component have? 2, right? 2 variables. And also guys, see, if you feel that there is no need of creating a separate function by giving a name and all that stuff, what you can do now is, see, I'm teaching you one more very important thing. If you ever feel that I don't want to create a separate function like this and then put your set name and then call this function here, what you can also do is you can directly create an anonymous function here. It's the same thing. You can also do this. So instead of creating a function separately and then calling it on click, you can directly say on click, call this function. And inside this function, you can write your code. My code was set name. So in this case, guys, what happens is we save some time, right? So I can just call set name or something like that. And you can also write it in one line. Make sense, everyone? So until and unless you feel that a function is going to be very big or your function is going to be reusable, don't create a separate function. If you want to just write one line of thing or one small functionality, you can write an inline function directly like this, rather than creating a separate function. So if it is only going to be, if your function is reusable, if your function has multiple lines of code, then go for a separate named function. If your function is only going to be used once and the line of code is very small, a single line, so you can just go for something like this. Okay, everyone. So I'm not going to go with this. So just showed you an example. And I'm going to create one more button. Change city. No issues, Nasrullah. No issues, buddy. On click and same, call this function. So on click, either call this function or call this function directly. And then here I'm saying set city. So from Mumbai to, let's say, Asgard. Okay. And here we go, guys. So now if I click on the first button, the name will change. If I click on the second button, the city will change. And if both of them change, use effect should be called. Because now what will happen? See, my component rent. Okay, what's up? Data. Where have I data? Where have I data? Data. Oh, we don't have data, right? We have name now. Name, yes. And let's say also I print city here. City. Both of them I printed. So now see. So my component loads for the first time. Use effect is called and prints print component mounted. If I click on change name, one of my state variable changes, that triggers component re-render, and when the component re-render, use effect is called again. And if I change one more state variable, that will again cause my component to re-render, and useEffect will be called again. Simple. So that's what I wanted to show you. That even no matter how many times you change your state, if you keep changing your state, your component will keep re-rendering and your useEffect will be called again and again. Now, so first definition is clear, right, everyone? useEffect is by default called for every render and re-render. First is cleared. Is the first line cleared? Now, what if I want this useEffect to only work for mounting? Why it is called 2 times? Because I'm changing state 2 times, right? The number of times you change your state, that many number of times your component re-render. And that's why useEffect is called again and again, because useEffect is called for every render and re-render. So if your component is rendering 5 times or re-rendering 5 times, it will be called 5 times. So I have 2 state variable. When I change one, component re-renders. When I change the second one, component re-render again. Simple. Okay. Now guys, everyone, be ready. What if I want my useEffect to only work once for the render, only when the component renders? So in the useEffect, the first parameter was the function. You can pass a second parameter, a blank array. And if you pass a blank array, now this useEffect will be called only for the first time render. So if I save it and see, if I refresh, okay, see, it is called. For the first time it is called. But now if I change my state, my component will re-render. But now my useEffect will not be called for re-render. See, nothing is happening now. My state is changing, my component is re-rendering, but useEffect is not getting called. So when you pass a blank array, so if I have to write a definition, if a blank array is passed, useEffect is called only once for first time render. Is that clear, everyone? If blank array is passed, this is what happens. Are we cleared, everyone? Please confirm that. Are we cleared? Are we cleared? Can you please quickly confirm that so that we can move ahead? There is third thing as well to understand here. There are actually 2 more things to understand. That's why. Quickly. But why? That's how it works. See, here the question is not why, because it is created to do such thing. Now the why lies, how can we utilize it? So think of it like this. When I want to execute some code only for the first time, when the component renders, I will follow this idea, right? When I want to execute some code for every render, I don't care. I will remove this blank array, right? So there are different use cases. You might want to perform some code every time. You might want to perform some code only once. You might want to perform some code for a single change. So it depends on you. There are various features available, but it depends on you. Now guys, very carefully listen, the second last point, that is, what if now I want to call my useEffect? See, useEffect will be always called for the first render. Always. First render, it will be always called, right? Now, when I pass blank array, it is only called for the first render. What if I want something like this? If this variable changes, then I want it to be called again, but not for city variable. Only for name, you should be called, but not for city. If I don't pass the blank array, it is called for name change as well. It is called for city change as well. Correct, everyone? It is called for the first time, also for name change, also for city change, or any state variable change. But what if I only want to call it first time and only for name change? So what I can do is, in this array, I can pass that variable. So dependency, I'm passing name. This array is called as dependency array. When it is blank, it is only called for the first time. When I pass a dependency like name, so now this useEffect knows, oh, I have a name dependency. I'm dependent on a variable called as name. So now I have to call, first time I'll be called on mounting. But whenever name is changed, I have to get called again. So let me show you. See. First time called, perfectly fine. First time always getting called. But if I change city, nothing happened. But if I change name, see, it got called again. So when you pass nothing, no array, nothing, it's called for every render and every variable change, every state variable change. When you pass a blank array, it is only called for the first render. And when you pass some dependency in that array, it is called for the first render. And also if this changes, it will be called again. And you can pass n number of dependencies, name, city, blah, 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 up to you. So now let me mention here one point as well. If you pass variable in dependency array, useEffect is called for first render and for variable change. Is that cleared, guys? Everyone, are we cleared? Please tell me, are we all cleared till now? Now it's up to us how we want to utilize this. But is the idea getting cleared? Can you please confirm that? Are you getting the idea? Everyone, all the 150 people plus watching, please confirm. Are you getting clear with the idea? Is that much clear? Please confirm that. Okay, amazing. Now then, one last thing. Now see, if I move on from this component, let's say I go to home. So now my component is removed. It is destroyed. Now my component is destroyed. So if I again go back to profile, it is remounted. So this is again the first render. Remember guys, when you remove the component and when you load it again, that's again like getting born again. It's again a new render. Okay. So what if I want to do something when the component is destroyed, like when I leave from the component, when I remove the component. So if you want to perform a task when you destroy a component, see, when I go to home from profile, when I go to home, the profile component is destroyed. So what if I want to perform a task when the component is destroyed? For that, you have to go in the useEffect, and from the useEffect, in the very last, at the very end only, guys, at the very end, return a function from here. Return a function from here. And whatever code you write in this function, that code is called when the component is destroyed. Let me just go console.log component destroyed. Let's see. So you can write some code, but I'm right now only putting component destroyed. So let me go here and see. First of all set, no big deal, nothing is there. I go to profile. Here we go. Profile component mounted. Amazing, because useEffect is working for the first time. It is printing profile component mounted. Good. Now, if I change the city, nothing should happen, obviously. But if I change the name, component useEffect will be called, because I have said that if name changes, you have to get called. So I'll go change the name. It's getting called. And while updating, it is also destroying. That means when the component update, it gets destroyed and recreated. That's why you're getting component destroyed as well. So when the component re-render, it gets destroyed and recreated on the spot. But for us, it is re-render only. And if I go back to home, see, component destroyed. And don't worry about this message, guys. This is coming from yesterday, right? Yesterday we had something like this, I think somewhere. Yeah, this function. That's why it's coming. This one. So I called it directly right on mouse enter. So let me just remove it. That's why that message is coming. So now, guys, you know everyone, right? I go to profile component mounted, perfectly fine. Change name, yes. Destroyed and recreated. So profile component mounted, because it is re-rendering. So re-rendering means destroying and recreating. And then if I go back somewhere, the component is completely destroyed. See, destroyed. Is it cleared, guys? Everyone, are we cleared? Why strict mode is called twice? Strict mode basically means run the application twice. Once for checking and once for the actual running. Simple. So when it checks, at that time it also runs all the code. That's why it prints at that time. And it runs it again. That's why it prints second time. So we put strict mode as off. Is that cleared, guys? Yes, yes, I know, crazy boy. It's a lot to take in at once. But guys, are we all cleared? Sir, but if we use in strict mode, it's okay. It will just print multiple times. It's not a big deal. Even if you keep strict mode on, it will just print. So guys, are we all cleared, everyone? Please confirm that. Are we all cleared? Are we all cleared? Can you please quickly confirm that? Now you can utilize this use effect according to your logic, whatever you want to do. You want to do some task, you want to do an API call, whatever you want to do, you can utilize it. For example, return wala part is simply, Amit, whenever a component is destroyed, that's where this is called. So this return function is only called whenever the component is removed. Okay. So component is removed 2 times, mainly at 2 places, 2 instances. Once when you actually remove it, once when the component re-renders. It's like removing and adding again. So re-rendering means removing and adding again. That's why it is called at that time as well. Is that clear, Amit? Your project will be basically GeoCinema, and since I don't know if you guys know backend or not, so I'm going to be creating a dummy backend so that we can actually move ahead with GeoCinema. Okay, so I'm going to be creating a dummy backend to utilize API calls and everything. So guys, is useEffect cleared? So useEffect is nothing but a hook which lets you utilize the lifecycle features of a component. So I'll be creating a dummy backend. Now that backend I'll be creating maybe in Fast API or maybe in Express, something like that. Can't we stop useEffect? Normally, no, but by some workaround, yes. Vipin. Not directly, but yeah, we can use some workaround to stop it. But in most of the cases, we don't need it. We don't need to stop it for the first time. Tomorrow is the project session. The bootcamp was of 3 days. Tomorrow is the project session. Okay. So guys, first of all, before we move ahead, is useEffect cleared? Secondly, I hope everyone from you knows fetch in JavaScript to perform API calls, right? You guys know fetch in JavaScript that is used to perform API calls. Remember guys, if you don't know fetch, I urge you, you have tonight and you also have tomorrow's complete day. Please learn a little about fetch. Please, it's my kind request, learn a little about fetch, because we are going to be using it a lot tomorrow. Okay, so please learn a little about fetch. It's very important. Okay. Fetch is simply used to perform API calls in JavaScript. Sir, tomorrow's session is paid. No, it's free. The next 2 days of project session is also free. Don't worry. Is Axios? Yeah, Axios is enough. But Axios is like a third-party tool. Fetch is what do you say? An internal thing of JavaScript, right? An inbuilt feature of JavaScript. So it is enough. Axios is enough, but I personally use fetch a lot because it's like a inbuilt JavaScript thing, right? So I don't have to rely on third-party library. You should always try to rely on third-party libraries as low as you can. I forgot the proper word there, but I hope you understood. Is that clear, guys? Don't rely too much on third-party libraries. Async await is part of JavaScript, so I would suggest you to please. Initially on LetsUpgrade channel, I had a lot of videos of mine of teaching asynchronous JavaScript. Okay, but I would suggest you to go learn a little about async JavaScript, not too much, a little, and learn a little about fetch. It's very important. Okay. Yes, I know, Kapil. Yes, a lot of people are not consistent, but that's fine. That is completely fine. Is that clear, guys? Tomorrow's class link is in here only. Just go to the LetsUpgrade channel. It's there. GeoCinema, it's there. Directly click on live. You can easily find it. Just go on YouTube, go on LetsUpgrade channel, and you will see that GeoCinema link there. I have just started you. It's 8 o'clock already, right? No, I think tomorrow's class, I don't know. Let me check what is the time. Let me also check. Wait, let me check what is tomorrow's time. Even I am not confirmed yet. Let me quickly check what is tomorrow's time. Live 6:30. Same 6:30. 6:30. And guys, it will be 6:30 to 8:30. पहले भी जियो सिनेमा बनाया था क्या? क्या है? फिर तो नया कुछ करना चाहिए था नहीं? कोई नहीं. अभी के लिए करना पड़ेगा because it is decided from a lot of time. But I'll make sure that next time I change it. अगर मैंने बनाया होता, if I would have made it, I would have definitely changed it. I didn't knew, so don't worry. Next time will definitely change. Next time will definitely change it. Don't worry. Is it clear? So guys, see. Please, it's my kind request. If you want to understand that project completely, learn a little about Fetch today. It's very easy. It's simply API calling. Okay. Tomorrow, I'll take the first 15-20 minutes for API calling, definitely. But after that, we'll be directly getting into the project. Okay. And we'll be also working with forms a little bit here and there. Don't worry. Okay. So guys, everyone, are we cleared with all the things that we have learned today? Please confirm that. Are we cleared with all the things that we have learned today? Tomorrow, first 20 minutes, it will be API calling, and then we'll directly dive into GeoCinema creation. We'll go ahead and start creating GeoCinema. And yes, I'll be creating a dummy API just to mimic some data, and we'll be directly building it from start. The navigation, everything. So please practice your HTML again. Please practice some CSS because I'll be writing a lot of CSS, and please practice Fetch. Is that clear, guys, everyone? Yes, I'll be showing you how to also work with forms in the project only. Don't worry. अमित, वो सफिशिएंट तो नहीं है, बट एक किक स्टार्टर के लिए काफी है. मतलब काफी सारी चीजें हमने सीख ली है. अगर आप इसको एक्चुअली पढ़ोगे तो आप देखोगे हमने काफी सारी चीजें सीखी है. ऑलमोस्ट 60% जो भी रिएक्ट में चीजें हमने सीख ली है. इसके अलावा अगर आप और आगे प्रोजेक्ट में काम करोगे तो आप काफी कुछ सीख जाओगे. तो हमने ऑलमोस्ट 60% कवर किया है. 3 दिन में काफी कुछ कवर किया हमने. ओके, बट अभी प्रोजेक्ट में मैं 3-4 चीजें और ऐड करूंगा. गाइस, we have almost learned 50 to 60% of React. While creating the project, I'll be teaching you around 10-20% more. So while building the project, we'll be learning more things like conditional rendering, like forms. Okay, so be ready for that as well. In the next 2 days, we'll be learning a little more while building the project. And after that, you'll be good enough to create any project in React. But yes, you have to practice. Okay. So everyone, I hope we are all cleared, and I hope you guys enjoyed the last 3 days, and I hope you guys are excited for tomorrow's session. So please comment in the chat, guys. Are you guys excited for tomorrow's session, and have you all enjoyed everything that we have done in last 3 days? Okay, please in the chat, everyone. Have you guys enjoyed everything that we have learned? And guys, also, if you're new, please subscribe to the channel, and please like the video. If you have enjoyed the session, definitely like the video because that motivates me. And when the session ends, please go ahead and comment whatever you can in the comment box. Good things, bad things, whatever you learned, whatever you missed. Please, about me, any kind of feedback, please comment in the below the video. It's my request, kind request. Okay. So thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye. Have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow exactly at 6:30 with API calling and project building. Bye-bye, guys. Bye-bye. Good night. Good night, everyone. No, it isn't Tailwind. It isn't Tailwind. It will be in CSS only. Yes. Okay. So, yep, guys. Bye-bye, everyone. Good night. Good night. Good night. See you all.